Namaste. Welcome to a new episode of Health Matters by Thought Habitat Speaks. It has been a long time since we started, but when we are starting with something very interesting. How many of us heard about child development therapy? Or when we were children, how many of us had the opportunity to have a child development therapy? You know, in today's world, we come across children who have fluency disorders, who have articulation disorders, autism disorders like in autism, and then like we have children who lack language development and who addressing all of these issues is Lexicon Rainbow Therapy and Child Development Center. And we have today Dr. Isha Soni, who is the center head and senior occupational therapist at Lexicon Rainbow. Isha, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining with us today.
Thank you, Arvind. Thank you for having me over. And it's a pleasure to get an opportunity to come and talk about this more.
Okay. So before we begin, I would like to give a simple introduction about you. So Isha is someone who comes with 12 years of experience in the field of child development therapy. According to her, there is a real need for people to shun all the taboos and reach out to a specialist to get the right information and guidance. And she is someone who has led several multidisciplinary teams and therapy centers in Pune to have service accessible to parents under one roof. While keeping a child's development and consistent progress as the topmost priority, she is leading the way in training parents and working playfully with a toddler to an incredibly gawky adolescent. So that's quite an impressive profile, Isha. So I have a few questions for you.
Yes, please.
You know, child therapy sounds more like an urban subject, right? But how would we ensure that it reaches every single child in every nook and corner of the country? And how accessible can we make it?
Yes. So, at the superficial, yes, child development therapy sounds very urban, but there are multiple factors that influence this. Um, in the rural areas, there is a real paucity of the therapy professionals. There is a lack of awareness, and it doesn't get detected on the right time. So there are many other factors like the geographic distance. The therapies are not accessible to parents, and also there are certain cultural factors involved. So when we are talking about rural communities, they are very close knit. They rely a lot on their own selves, and they want to be self independent. They really don't like any outside professional coming and telling them how to bring up their child, or that there is something missing or a lack, a delay in the child. Denial is something that we see in all the parents, be it urban, be it rural. It is very, very difficult to accept that, okay, there is something wrong with my child, or there is something amiss in my child. Whereas in urban parents, in urban cities, also the literacy rate matters. So in urban cities, it's nuclear family. The parents are constantly monitoring the children for all kind of milestones. And even if they miss one milestone, because the health professionals are so accessible easily, the pediatricians are in place, and plus the developmental pediatricians are also easily available. It is very easy for urban parents to seek help, do the early screening, and get the diagnostics done and begin the therapy for the children. Whereas in rural areas, that is not at all the scenario. So answering your question that, how do we make these services accessible to even the children in the rural area, the point over here is that, we start training community health workers who work with the set of children. So, be it the primary school teachers, be it the caregivers in orphanages or creches, or the primary healthcare centers. And we also call them as Anganwadi workers. So, if certain workshops or trainings are held, wherein they are at least taught the early screening and detection, it will be helpful, because the first and foremost thing, the most important thing is awareness, and the second is early detection. So if these two things start happening, then the rural children will also have access to these kind of services. So apart from screening, we can even teach them some simple intervention programs which they can easily implement. And also pandemic has opened up the doors for teletherapy or telehealth, what we call. So first, telehealth or teletherapy was not something which one would easily accept, but now it has got more acceptance. And through teletherapy or telehealth, at least the consultations or a home program can be given to parents, wherein they can implement some simple strategies, of course keeping their cultural values in place. And also the activities that we recommend are going to be in sync with their culture. So I feel these are the few ways that we can have services accessible in rural areas. And it is again very, very important to have the right channel or the right flow chart in place. So it is very important to create awareness among the doctors in rural areas also, that see such kind of services are available in bigger cities and metro cities, and you can reach out to us in case you need any help or training with the children.
That's really interesting to know. And Isha, secondly, I feel, this has been a popular opinion all across. Today's parents are more wanting. They want so much from their children that some would eventually want their children to be a superhero right from the day they are born. Right? So
Yeah.
in that scenario, how do we address all those issues in a therapy?
Yeah, so it is very true that all the parents, they want their children should be the best, their child should know everything. And they, so there are many concepts also that have come in, like helicopter parenting or bulldozer parenting. So bulldozer parenting is basically that you as a parent, you ensure that there are no obstacles in my child's life or in his route, and you try to overcome them. So it's like, you're setting a bed of roses for your child. But we really don't encourage that, because if the child doesn't face conflicts, doesn't learn how to problem solve, we are actually making him feel out of control. And that will further lead to, low self-esteem and low self-confidence in the child. So we definitely do not encourage, this kind of parenting. We do have counseling services available at our center. And when we come across parents like this, we, mildly tell them to come and take counseling, because it also adds on to anxiety of the child, that, always the parents are putting so much of pressure on the child. So then they tend to become anxious, and we definitely do not want, more anxious personalities coming in for the no fault of their child. But again, this word superhero and super hero approach we do use in our therapies. So at Lexicon Rainbow Child Development Center, what we do is we are treating children with delays. who have any form of developmental disorders. So it is very useful as an approach in therapy. So when a child who has a good insight about himself, so let's say the child doesn't have any diagnosis except that he's being hyperactive or he's being very impulsive. So we use this superhero approach. So to that child, we will not say that, oh, you're coming for therapy. To him, many times parents say, oh, you're receiving some superhero training. So why do children, they like superhero? Because it makes them feel in control. And it also, the superheroes, the image of a superhero is being good, being powerful, being able to control over evil, win over evil. So this is an approach that we use in therapy, wherein a child can be taught to differentiate between good or bad, or the child will understand right or wrong. So these therapies are actually called, like, the approaches are role playing, wherein there is a group of children, say 3 to 4 children, and there is a therapist. And then, they set a pretend situation in place. And there they are being put in an opportunity that they have to choose the right path. So, and in case they go on the wrong path, then, in a very subtle way, they are told about it. So, this is a very good approach for children. Especially for children who are very impulsive, who in that very moment cannot decide what's right, what's wrong, and they just jump into it. So it's a good therapy approach, I would say.
Okay, that's quite interesting to know. I wish like I really had that kind of a therapy when I was a child to remind that I'm a
Yes,
superhero.
absolutely.
Would you like to share any one example, any one case study of a child being given a therapy in Lexicon?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So there have been plenty. So we actually deal with more than 600 to 700 therapy sessions every month. And it's basically like, we are falling short of professionals. So the need is very, very high, but the professionals in this field, good quality professionals in this field, are very scarce to find. So to cite you one case study, so in 2019, we had a child who was around 22 months who came to us. He was diagnosed to be at high risk for autism. So, he had delayed milestones, like he was not addressing mama, papa. He had very high sensory issues, like anything could just trigger him off, and it would make him cry, make him extremely upset, going to new places, meeting new people, or even, like, any change in his daily routine would just set him off. So of course the parent came to us. The parents were, they themselves were not in a good emotional position, I would say. They are stressed, distressed, that, oh, we don't know, like, what has come up. And when you actually go on Google to read this thing up, they show a very ghastly picture. So the process begins right from counseling the parent that, okay, we are here, we are going to help you out. And we started, after the due assessments of the child, we started occupational therapy. So occupational therapy took care of his sensory issues. So, he was very sensitive to sounds. He wouldn't tolerate daily situations, daily life situations, like, trimming nails or having a haircut or brushing his teeth. He wouldn't really like anyone cuddling him or going close to him. Changing clothes was a stressful experience for him. He would just keep on pacing and moving around the whole day. So occupational therapy helps to deal with these issues. And the approach used over here is sensory integration therapy. So we have qualified sensory integration therapists in our team. So we started working with the child. Also because the child was lacking in speech, even the speech therapy had begun simultaneously with the child. So in autism, what we see is we see different kinds of presentation or manifestation in children, wherein some children are verbal, some are not verbal, but they like they in if they are verbal, so basically they can recite poems or they can sing songs or they can talk about the cartoon scripts, but they really don't do the day-to-day conversation, that mama I want to go out, or mama I'm hungry, give me food, give me water, that way. So speech therapy with this child, we started with the teaching him the essence of communication, so how to communicate. So there is a strategy called as picture exchange communication system, in which we start wherein the child is made to give the picture of an object he or she wants. So it could be food, it could be his favorite toy, or it could be his favorite place where he wants to go. So that's how we started this journey with him. And he definitely settled down in 2 months to 3 months time, wherein his hyperactivity had reduced, his sensory issues had reduced, he at least started giving us an eye contact, he was more responsive to our commands that we were telling him, he was responsive to his name call. And then we started working on words with him, on then he progressed to a simple word, like short sentences, I want car, or I want water, that way. So it's been a long journey, and today we are like 3 years down. And because this child received early intervention, he has now become verbal. He um, looks into your eyes and speaks. He is able to communicate his basic needs and wants. He is much calm and settled. So now going to new places, or meeting new people, or any changes in his daily routine, they really don't bother him, and he's a more happy child. So he loves coming to us. And he's also now started going to the preschool. So he started mingling up with other children. So this is what actually early intervention can do, and a team approach helps. So an occupational therapist and a speech therapist working simultaneously with a child, it really helps, because both the therapists can communicate with each other about the progress in the child, or this technique worked with the child. So that's how a multidisciplinary approach is very helpful. And of course we time to time we also address the emotional needs of the parents. What parents actually want is someone who understands them and who can hear them out. They are always not just looking for solutions, but they just want someone who can listen to them and can understand their concerns. So yeah, I mean, it's been a beautiful journey with the child. It makes us more happy than even parents, I would say, that we have been able to change the educational and functional outcome of the child just because he received this early intervention services.
Yeah, that's quite a good transformation to know. And Isha, finally, so being an entrepreneur yourself, I'm sure that you would have set a roadmap for Lexicon. And also, as you said before, child development therapy is a growing genre as far as as far as medical science is concerned, I believe, in India at least. So,
Yes.
what is the roadmap for Lexicon, and what is the roadmap for child development therapy in India, according to you?
Yes. So a simple answer for this is we want to make services accessible to everyone. We want to detach the social stigma in the society regarding mental health services. Um, and we want to make our presence in both national and international um, cities, And it gives me immense pride to actually let you know that during the pandemic, through teletherapy, we have gone across the borders of India and have given therapy to Indian parents and their children. So we have had teletherapy sessions done very successfully in countries like Australia, Singapore, UAE, Dubai, um, and Italy. So all these places have been we have been able to make our presence feel, and parents have been knowing about us by the good work we do and the changes they get to see in the child. So definitely we wish to open more therapy centers in India and abroad as well.
Okay, that's really quite a good goal to achieve for you. And I really feel that every single child born today deserves such a therapy. And the more we equip the child to be independent, the more good he becomes, the more good he or she becomes as an individual. So thank you so
Yes.
much for joining with us, Isha. It was a great conversation with you.
Thank you so much.